as you can see by Kirk Cousins' stats, he's having a definitively above average year, but it's not a special year necessarily, as he's just pretty darn good in every stat. He isn't wowing you with anything. His range is something that is really interesting, though, as it's very small. He only has a 4 range, with his PFF grade being 13th and his quarterback rating being 17th. So he does have a small range, which does suggest that he is playing well in basically every measurable avenue. With that said, he's 14th in expected points added plus completion percentage over expected, which is one of the premier stats in all of football. He is also 15th in success rate, so he's consistent again with those stats, which you don't always see because EPA can be a little bit distorted by very long plays, and success rate is just a play-by-play basis. If you're unfamiliar with these stats, I have a video that breaks them down each individually, so be sure to check those out if you're unsure about either stat. With that said, Cousins has a pretty darn good supporting cast around him, and that starts with his offensive line, which is 18th in pass blocking when looking at PFF's pass blocking grade plus ESPN's pass blocking win rate. So they are roughly average, and they have some really high-end talent, and they have some guys that are a little bit more easy to attack, but no one's a glaring issue, I wouldn't say, either. So that's pretty nice to see. They do have a really nice group of receiving options also, with Darnell Mooney being arguably their lead guy, which is kind of crazy to think because he has historically been a number 2, and some people have even thought that he should ideally be a number 3. So, with that said, he's 22nd in yards per game and 23rd in yards per reception. So he is very, very consistent. He can win deep downfield with ease. He has great speed, and he also can move the chains with regularity, so that's nice to see. Kyle Pitts is 58th in yards per game and 30th in yards per reception, so he's very good, consistent option as well. It took finally having a good quarterback to really show what Pitts can do, but now that he has a competent quarterback at the helm, Pitts is showing off his immense talent. Drake London arguably still is their number 1, even though the stats don't fully support that. He is 23rd in yards per game, 63rd in yards per reception. So he's right behind Mooney in yards per game, but a decent amount behind him in yards per reception, which does make sense. London is not quite the deep downfield stretcher that Mooney is. London doesn't have the elite speed that Mooney does, but London is a consistent short to intermediate threat, which is really nice to see. Ray McLeod is a decent 3rd or 4th option, depending on what you want to count Pitts as. McLeod is 94th in yards per game and 117th in yards per reception. So he is a 3rd option very comfortably. And though he's not the greatest field stretcher, he is a efficient short game receiver. So he does have some value, even if he's not going to be doing so in the most analytically sound way. Now, shifting to their rushing game, They are 15th in rushing expected points added and 4th in rushing success rate, which I would hope it goes back to the mean sum with regression, where they are consistently having success with their rushes, as evident by them being 4th in rushing success rate. They're just not having great success with their expected points added, which again can be a little bit too predicated on long gains, and it can also be derailed a bit by fumbles. So that is something that can shift the entire landscape of their stat, but overall they are a very good, sound rushing team that is consistently having effective runs, even if they aren't necessarily breaking off the longest rushes either. Defensively, they are really poor. They are 24th in defensive expected points added and 24th in defensive success rate, which, if you were good, you would love to see that consistency, but that ranking obviously is not good. So they're just very poor overall. They're giving up long plays. They're getting beat consistently. They are not really having success defensively, which is a bit odd because they do have some real talent on the defensive side of the ball, and they have, I would say, pretty good coaching as well. So it's a bit of an enigma as to how they're so poor. But one thing is clear is that they don't have a pass rush, so that does hold things back a great deal. What they do have, though, is 7 above average defenders that start. They have Jesse Bates, who's great, one of the best safeties overall. He's very balanced. He's amazing in coverage, and he's very good as a run defender. AJ Terrell, one of the better athletes at cornerback. He's 6'1" and has really good movement skills. They also have Clark Phillips, who's kind of a clash of styles with Terrell, where Terrell is really good athletically. Phillips is 5'9" and ran a 4.5 40-yard dash. So he's not very athletic, Phillips that is, but he's still a solid contributor at corner. They also have Mike Hughes, who's similar to Phillips. He's 5'10" and ran a 4.5 40 also. So they have some overlap in skills at cornerback, which isn't the worst thing, because they do check the boxes with Terrell. So if they do go against an athletic freak wide receiver, they still have somebody that can match up nicely. Arnold Ebiketie is solid and balanced. He's good as a pass rusher and good as a run defender as well. He's not special in either regard, but he's solid overall. Grady Jarrett, I wanted to combine his name there for a second. Grady Jarrett is also very balanced. He's turned into a much better run defender in recent years than I think he initially started out as. He's always been a great pass rusher, but he is now really balanced also. They have Nate Landman, who is a run defense and coverage menace, so he's very good overall. And then they have 2 bad defenders, Lorenzo Carter and Justin Simmons. Carter is pretty much useless as an edge defender, unfortunately, and Simmons struggles as a run defender, which isn't the biggest issue, but is still less than ideal. So they do have some issues, but overall I don't think they're nearly as bad talent-wise as their rankings for defensive stats would suggest. I think they're just not playing as a unit as well as they probably should be, because they do have good defensive backs, and they have 1 edge rusher, and they have some good interior play as well, with Grady Jarrett being the star of the bunch. So it's not like they're devoid of talent on the line entirely. those are my thoughts on the Falcons. Be sure to let me know what yours are in the comment section, and also be sure to like and subscribe for more NFL content.